Welcome to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and their journey. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the co-host of this show. And, if you're new to the program, go check out our archives because we've got all kinds of great interviews with smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs of all kinds of different companies, especially here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And this episode is part of our EO San Francisco series, profiling exciting, interesting, and really active and engaging entrepreneurs around the San Francisco Bay Area. And this episode, of course, is brought to you by EO San Francisco, which is the local chapter of the larger Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a global organization of entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, about 16,000 members worldwide in just about every country around the globe. And if you want to learn more about it, you can go to eosf.org to learn about our chapter. And my guest here today is my good friend and forum mate. Her name is Jen Atkinson. She's the co-CEO of Destira, which is a family-owned, woman-owned gymnastics leotard company specializing in leotards for little girls. And we're going to hear the story about how it began. And also, fun fact, Jen and I actually are from the same hometown, and she graduated the same year as my younger brother, Andrew, which is something we didn't even realize, Jen, until after we'd known each other for a little bit, which is so funny.
So true.
We realized that later. But let's get into your story. So, you and I grew up in Calabasas in LA County area. And your mom, when you were a little kid, started basically making leotards for you guys. And it turned into this amazing business. But did you have a memory of that? Do you have a memory of your mom, like, getting out the sewing machine and making leotards?
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks for having me, John. I'm excited to share the story with you guys. My mom lived in her sewing room growing up. Our sort of office bedroom off of her bedroom was converted to a sewing room. So the buzz and hum of the sewing machine is a part of my childhood. My sisters and I were born, raised, and nurtured in the gym. Like, we were jumping all over anything and everything we could, flipping. We had boundless energy. So my mom enrolled all three of us in gymnastics. And she took her kind of passion for designing leotards, I would say, or designing, and she started making leotards for us. So we had this love of gymnastics, became a family love, and that passion for design turned into a business.
And was it harder to get leotards back then? Is that why she started doing it? Or was it just kind of, she thought it'd be fun, or save a nickel, or why did she do them herself?
I think both and all. I still remember one designer manufacturer, she sold leotards out of her home, and my mom would take us when we were smaller before she started sewing us leotards to go pick them out. Yeah, the designs weren't there. The comfort wasn't there. The quality wasn't there. My mom talks about how she just kind of felt like there was this gap and she knew she could do it better. The inspiration for her starting to make leotards for my sisters and I was because we couldn't find anything better, and it really organically grew. My teammates started asking for leotards, and then teams in the neighborhood started asking for leotards as well.
So that your teammates saw what your mom was coming up with, and they're like, "Hey, can we get some of those too?"
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yep.
And what point? I know that your mom eventually opened a office outside of the home, right? So what point did it get professional enough that she figured, I need to move this outside of the home?
Well, that's actually a good one. My mom sewed leotards all, like, for us through elementary, junior high, and high school. We went off to college, and she grew the company by her own two hands until like manufacturing just became too much, and that's when she outsourced to a partner in Los Angeles that we still sew with today.
Wow.
So we have manufacturing in Los Angeles. I think it happened probably about 2000. And my sister joined the company in 2003, which is when they incorporated as Destira and started building out the framework and structure for wholesale and retail. Both.
And had your mom run businesses before this?
No, she always had craft or hobby businesses, I would say, where she was sewing or producing goods, selling in maybe local shops or fairs. But this was really her first venture into the business world.
Yeah. The funny is my mom, probably around the same time period, my mom was doing kind of the same thing. She had some little hobby businesses, or she'd make little jewelry and stuff and go to craft fairs. There's no Etsy back then. There's no eBay. There's no, those sorts of options for selling things more broadly and widely. And also hard to find, to outsource manufacturing. But so your father also was very entrepreneurial, and in your words, raised you with the aspiration to one day have your own business, right? So
Yep.
how did he do that? How did that show up? Was that something that like over the dinner table he was talking about, or you guys were doing lemonade
Hmm.
stands? What was it like?
I think all of the above. We always prioritize family dinner, so kind of risk taking was part of what was expected. Like, I feel like that's a piece of it. Like, every time we failed, like, the motto in my house was "You're one step closer to success." So they kind of bred this aptitude for risk taking and accept, like, celebrating failure to, like, come back stronger or learn from it. And I think that's a quality in an entrepreneur that I admire. I think creativity and kind of problem solving was a big piece that my parents raised my sisters and I with. And it, like, if we were in arguments or needed to figure something out, they didn't come and solve it for us. They literally would say, "Go downstairs and figure it out." Like, and just that negotiation between my sisters and I, like, needing to solve our own problems. Same with friendships. Like, they just didn't get involved to coddle us in that way. It was like problem solving, it was be creative, it was take risks, I would say. Um, Teamwork was a big one in our house. It was we always basically needed to be part of a team. That was kind of an expectation. It fell into gymnastics for most of us. When gymnastics was done, there was a lot of track and field, there was swimming. We were just always part of teams, and I think that's another piece. Um, yeah, I think the
Yeah.
flexibility though, like, my parents basically always said, like, if you work for yourself, you can work when you need to, when you want to. And like, my dad and mom lived that life. They showed us how great it was. They took trips. I mean, I still remember taking 6, 8 week motorhome trips across the country
Mm,
because my dad unplugged, and that was his
yeah.
choice, even though he was still able to provide for the family, because he was sort of an entrepreneur. So that was like the essence of what running your own company could give to you.
And I know that that's been a priority for you as well. I want to get into that. You prioritize family time as a working mom as well. But first, before we get into that, so you end up going off to UC Berkeley and studying business, and after that, going and getting your MBA also. And you actually spent a number of years kind of in the corporate world. So it was a while before you got around to that business ownership that had been so instilled in you from a young age. Looking back on that now, imagine that time. There are a lot of lessons that you apply in the work that you do now as the head of a company.
Oh yeah, I feel so fortunate to have learned from, like, two established brands, both at Gap and Adobe. Um, my experience at Kellogg was also instrumental, I feel like, in the way I run the company. But most often, I look back to literal jobs I held at Gap or Adobe, um, leadership decisions or management decisions I had to make. And I think being at those larger corporations, it gave me, like, the structure that I've been able to bring to Destira, but without the bureaucracy, I would say. Like, we're still agile, but we have sort of aspirations for the structure and goal and standard operating procedures that we need to run by to make sure the wheels don't fall off as we grow. So we're
Yeah.
really focused on, like, setting foundation with, like, clarity in roles, expectations, processes. And I think a lot of that I've been able to bring from my past work experiences.
You joined the Gap in 2002 after getting your MBA, after graduating. No, sorry, but after graduating from undergraduate,
Yep.
you joined the Gap and you were in merchandising, something that today must be so incredibly valuable having that perspective for a company that sells into companies like the Gap. Do you think that was intentional in retrospect? Do you think that you went into merchandising in part because of the business that your mom was running, at all, or was there a larger picture like one day I'm going to join the family business, so it'll be helpful having worked for the Gap?
Right. Um, I think again, I think it's both. I always, like, in the back of my mind, had Destira on my mind as something I would eventually want to do, but I needed to kind of find my own place and time to make it the right choice. Like, and it wasn't in the beginning. It wasn't in when I graduated. I sort of had this passion to get out there and learn, I think, more before I think it's my social nature as well. Like, I really enjoy meeting other merchandisers and merchandise planners and designers. We traveled to New York and to Hong Kong. Like, it was a buzz of young energy in that retail space at Gap that I'm very grateful for.
Yeah. Well, at what point did your sister joined the company before you did? So it was your mom and your sister. And then at what point did it cross your mind, or did you guys have a conversation about you joining the family business?
Oh, it's very, very clear. So my sister joined about 10 years before me, and she and my mom built the business. When I went off to business school, my application was about wanting to join Destira, and I took classes with intention to add value to Destira, sort of as consultancy. So there was, by that time, I was like really thinking about Destira, but when I graduated, I went to Adobe for another 5 years.
This is a long-term plan. You
Yeah.
had. It's like a 20-year
Totally.
plan.
And I don't regret it. Ultimately, I don't regret it at all. But what happened is my first daughter, Peyton, was born in 2012. And I had a beautiful maternity leave. I went back to Adobe for another year. But right when she turned one, it just, when I went back to a big company, I couldn't quite find the value I was seeking in each hour of my time spent at work. Like I just wanted to be somewhere else. So having a child like up the bar on the contribution and impact I wanted to make on each hour away. Like, I don't know how, that's like how I valued it. And
Yeah.
it triggered me to be like, let's figure this out. So it took another like probably 6 months of planning between my mom and sister and I, especially my sister and I, to make sure it felt like equitable. We had very clear division of labor, roles and responsibilities. And I feel fortunate. My sister Jody and I really fit together like a puzzle. Our experience and our passions and what we're good at, our skill sets, like we really don't fortunately duplicate in many areas. But I mean, we're very intentional about the way we lead as sisters and partners.
Right. And so now, talk to me a little bit about what the business is like, especially now. It's after 2.5 years later after COVID. Well, actually, let's go back to that. So, COVID hits. You are a business that, I believe at the time, a lot of your business was funneled through local gymnasiums, which I imagine many of them shut down because these are indoor spaces. What was that like for you in March of 2020? What's going through your head?
All gyms closed. Our business literally came to a screaming halt. Like we might have even had a couple days of zero sales.
Wow. Which for I imagine at your size, that wasn't happening.
No, it was absolutely insane. It was the highest levels of stress and like business failure I'd ever experienced to date. We acted very quickly with downsizing our team, forward looking, canceling production on orders. A lot of like really hard decisions had to be made immediately, and that allowed us to stay profitable, stay alive, and ultimately come back stronger. And then we were able to hire back the majority of the team.
What was that like, that when you realized you had to lay people off or furlough them, however you did it?
It was sickening. Like literally I got hives. Sickening. Like it was horrific. I think it was a lot of time for reflection though, ultimately. Like we talked a lot like with our core group about leadership during the pandemic and the downturn. And what I feel like became even more important than ever was our community. It was literally our community and our consumers, because like we had so much brand advocacy that like the coaches and the gym owners who loved us, like came out of the woodworks to really help us spread the word on how we can help their gyms. And we pivoted, we created online fundraisers for gyms to sell product to make money to help them get through. So we all were able to kind of work together to to ultimately fundraise and make money to get through the pandemic together. And it felt like we felt so integrated with our community. And it really was a kickstart for us to move any of our offline businesses online, to give even our gym clubs the opportunity to sell their custom leotards through Destira.com, where in the past they had to sell them like by hand through forms in their club. So we did a lot of online kind of digital work. And
I believe before the pandemic, what was the state of your direct-to-consumer e-commerce sales through your website?
It was strong, but the pandemic, we almost doubled our direct-to-consumer sales. And fortunately, it basically forced us to find all new avenues to really drive that channel with the gym closures. So we were able to work with, basically we found new Facebook advertising partners, Google advertising partners, the list goes on, affiliate advertising partners. And we've been able to really top of funnel, like raise our brand awareness through our digital marketing strategy. And we've continued to do that now. So we've had what we call our B2B build back. The gyms are reopened. We're now able to sell wholesale again, but we've continued on the e-commerce path, so that trajectory we're on. So now we have larger market share than we did before.
How long after things dropped down did things start to pick back up again? Did you find that, families were buying leotards for girls stuck at home to give them activities, even if they weren't going to the gym?
Oh yeah, we actually made like coloring pages with the prints of our design leotards. Like we were trying to be involved in our gymnasts at home life to get them engaged with our brand, even if they weren't buying leotards. And we tried to feature stories of our gymnasts in our community on our website and through our social media. So like how they were entertaining themselves, how they were doing school at home, how they were practicing gymnastics at home. So we really tried to be that brand to help them express themselves and kind of find joy in, even if they weren't buying leotards. I would say it was those 3-4 months where that was our whole marketing and communication strategy. It was just staying connected and engaged. And then when I would say school hit, like fall, July. So it was really that March, April, May, June, those 4 months were really rough. And then the trajectory started building back up again.
Yeah.
And we sell across the country, and by all means, it was a fascinating study of of the states we do business with. We do business with every state, but the volume really increased in the middle of America compared to the coast.
Interesting. The ones that weren't as locked down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we built a lot of new relationships with the areas of the U.S. that were not locked down during the pandemic.
And we talked earlier about prioritizing family, and I know that this actually gave you the opportunity to do some travel during the pandemic, where you traveled around a little bit. So talk a little bit about that and how you managed to balance the company while also, spending some time with your family.
Yeah, that's the silver lining in a nutshell for me, is the pandemic made me realize we can accomplish great things remotely. Until the pandemic, I was in the office every day, morning to night. I even brought my babies. I never took maternity leave. Like I was at the office and I was present. And that was sort of, I think, the expectation I had of myself and my team had of me. And the pandemic helped us bring communication tools and processes, everything from Slack to Airtable to Dropbox, like all of the ways we were communicating were just so different before the pandemic. And now we can stay connected through different softwares like 15.5 and reviews and pulse checks and check it like all day, every day. I almost feel like I know my team in Portland better post-pandemic because we're connected remotely in such a better way than we were before.
Yeah.
And with that, now I can really work from anywhere. And we enjoy spending summers up in Portland, Oregon, where my parents live, and we enjoy spending time up in Tahoe. And with the help of a lot of incredible family and grandparents, as well as friends, nannies, sitters, we're able to really enjoy time with the kids mashed together with quality time at work.
Another interesting thing I think you've done with the company is you've collaborated with some professional gymnasts, well-known, Olympians and things like that. and really kind of focused in on this message around empowering girls, supporting girls. So talk a little bit about how that's become a focus for you and how you've made it a part of Destira.
Yeah, our mission is to empower girls. What we've actually done, not as much with Olympians, but we've partnered with a nonprofit, like community-centered organization, nonprofit in Berkeley or Oakland, California, called Girls Leadership, and they kind of have this shared mission to teach girls to identify and celebrate like their strength, right, their well-being, the power of their voice, and they've done a ton of like research, and they provide a bunch of curriculum, and we've partnered with them to sponsor workshops for both our gymnasts and gym families, as well as coaches and gym owners, to really honor like the leadership of girls that are in their clubs, but also to create brave spaces so girls can know their own power. And we've done a ton of fundraising work in partnership with them and our community to give back to them, to continue to do research to empower girls. And we just feel like it's so important to ensure that the work they're doing is brought to our gymnastics community. And that's our goal, to make that positive impact with them.
A lot of entrepreneurs, founders that I have on this show will talk about how that feels great to do, but it also helps with the team and with recruitment and building a great culture within the company.
Mhm.
So, speak a little bit to that, how having this larger mission has affected the culture within the company.
Yeah, I mean, I think our mission is to empower all girls and those that love them, and that includes our team. Um, and absolutely, it's it's like this, the essence of how we get things done versus not just what we get done. So I
Mm,
think in working with girls leadership, there's like this icon, if you will, like it's representative of what we believe, but we bring that same intent to every conversation, every leadership discussion. It's like the expectation of our team to operate sort of with like authentic purpose, right? Like accountability. We really want to make sure every person's heard, like that they come to work feeling confident and clarity in like their roles, their responsibility, and also help them reach their full, leadership potential.
yeah. And I love that you're also sharing this with your girls. So you came from 3 girls, you've got 3 girls of your own. And
True.
also now you're paying it forward. I believe you and your mom are teaching a course after many years of wanting to do this. You're teaching a course about entrepreneurship. Talk about it.
It's very true. I have been wanting to do it for a while now, and I think I had to actually psych up more to teach a course. I don't know if I can call it a course. Let's call it a class. But it's like a seminar to third and fourth graders. And I don't know if it
Yeah,
was
sure. That's practically
right.
college level.
It's like the content I had down, but it's like how do I make it fun for third and fourth graders to take in the concept? So it's been awesome. My mom and I go and for my daughter's school, and we've taught lessons of entrepreneurship around the qualities of an entrepreneur through different games that teach teamwork, communication, problem solving. Last week we did a hot chocolate stand, which was really fun. And we talked about like the marketing mix and the 4 Ps, and it was great. They talked about how they can differentiate the product and where they could place it, and it has to be on a cold day with a busy intersection, and the price. It was super fun for them to kind of light bulb clicked when I was like, it's not the price that you sell it for, it's really the profit you have to think about. And we kind of worked through what it means to have a profit margin versus just making the money that you sell it at, because you have to pay for everything. And it's a rewarding, fulfilling experience. It definitely takes away the time I have from my home and family and work, but it's all interrelated, and it's
And one of your daughters is in the class.
true,
Yeah.
true. In one of the classes, I'm teaching
Yeah.
two,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah,
I'm loving it.
that's so cool. I think some of those lessons are pretty powerful. You might have some other entrepreneurs, no matter how long they've been an entrepreneur, who might benefit from those lessons. So, Jen, this has been great. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about you and Destira?
check out Destira.com, and I am always here. I'm ready to talk by phone, by email, and we're on social media at Destira Leotards as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jen.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for listening to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast. This episode is powered by Rise 25. Please subscribe and check out future episodes.